Hello everyone, welcome to my channel on data analytics. I am Professor Rage Uday Kiran. In this video, we are going to learn how to discover frequent patterns in sales data. The outline of the presentation is as follows. First, we look at the sales data. Then, we discuss the theoretical model of a frequent pattern. Then, we will talk about the problem definition, and then we will go through a small demo on discovering frequent patterns in sales data. Coming to the sales data, assume there is a supermarket which is selling 6 different items such as pen, beer, butter, books, bread, and milk. Now, many people are coming to the supermarket and then they are purchasing different items. The purchase data of these customers will result in sales data. Each row in this sales data represents the customer ID followed by the items they have purchased. Mathematically, in the sales data, each row is called a transaction and the sales data corresponds to transactional database. If you want to know more about the transactional database and its mathematical representation, please check the link provided above. Most important, transactional database can be represented in multiple forms. For instance, it can be stored as row format and also as a columnar format. So in the columnar format, we will have items as column names, and then occurrence of an item is given as 1 and non-occurrence of an item is given as 0. So both formats represent the transactional database. Row format is better for humans to understand, while where columnar format is better for machines. We will now look at the theoretical model of a frequent pattern. In the sales data, there is useful information that can help the managers to understand the customer purchase behavior. So, a common problem faced by the data scientists is how to analyze the purchase data. To solve this problem, Rakesh Agarwal introduced the concept of frequent pattern mining. So let us look at this model now. So to explain the frequent pattern model, I am going to use the terms that we are going to use. Then what is the description of the terms, and also I will provide the example. Now looking at the terms, the term I stands for all items in a database. For example, in our supermarket, the terms are milk, bread, butter, beer, books, and pen. A pattern represents an item set. For example, milk and beer is a pattern. A transaction represents a pair of transaction identifiers and a pattern. For example, the customer ID 1 has purchased milk, butter, and beer. This is a transaction. Collection of transactions represent a database. So, these terms are used to describe a transactional database. In our case, it is the sales data. So, in this sales data, there are some useful patterns. To find those useful patterns, we use a measure called support. Support is nothing but the normalization of frequency measure using the total number of transactions in a database. For example, support of the pattern milk and beer in the data is 50% because out of 10 transactions, the pattern milk and beer has appeared in 5 transactions. Now, if we want to say a pattern as frequent, very simple. It has to satisfy the user specified minimum support threshold value. For example, as a domain expert, I want to find the patterns that have appeared at least 50% of the time in my dataset. In that case, we can say milk and beer is a frequent pattern because its occurrences satisfy the user defined threshold value. So, this is called frequent pattern. But the important point is in a database, there will be several thousands of interesting patterns that are hidden in a transactional database. The key question is how do we discover all such frequent patterns? To discover all such frequent patterns in a database, we have a problem definition. So when we look at the problem definition, first we will have a transactional database or a sales data. This data we will provide it to the data mining algorithm or a frequent pattern mining algorithm in our case. So for this algorithm, the user using the domain knowledge provides the threshold value, that is minimum support. How many times a pattern must at least appear so that he can consider them as interesting. Once he specifies the minimum support value, the data mining algorithm runs on the input dataset and extracts all patterns from the data. So how to extract all these patterns? We will now look in the demo. For demonstration purposes, we are now going to use the sales data shown in this table and we will be using Jupyter Hub for knowledge discovery purposes. In the Jupyter notebook, let us first create a text file containing the sales data. So we have taken the sales data and let us save it. Sales data.txt. So in this sales data, each transaction represents the purchases of the customer. The customer purchases are separated using the comma. Now let us try to find the frequent patterns hidden in the sales data. So we are opening the notebook. To find frequent patterns, we have to use PAMI library. If you want to install the PAMI library, please use the command pip install PAMI and we have installed the PAMI. Now let us use the package PAMI. We want to find frequent patterns. Our objective is to find all frequent patterns in a database. So since we are looking at all, let us use the word basic. From this, let us import the algorithms. Let us use FP growth algorithm for knowledge discovery purposes. Now Let us initialize the algorithm FP growth. So the input parameters to this algorithm are an database file, minimum support threshold value, and the separator. So is sales data.txt. So this is the input file. Next, we have to specify minimum support. Let us say minimum support is 4. That is, a pattern must appear. Instead of 4, let us use 3. So our objective is find the patterns in which its support is greater than or equivalent to 3. Now we have to use the separator. So the separator is comma in our data set. So we use the comma. So we have now initialized the algorithm, and now let us run the algorithm. To run the algorithm, we have to use start main function. Once we execute the algorithm, we have discovered the patterns. Now let us save these patterns in the file. So use the function save. File name we have to provide. Let us say frequent patterns in sales data. The minimum support we have used is 3. So we have saved the sales data. Let us print the sales data. You can see the frequent patterns that were generated from our data set. The first row says that the pattern book was purchased by 3 customers, pen was purchased by 3 customers, bread was purchased by 3 customers, and then bread and butter was purchased by 3 customers. In the similar way, we can find the patterns that exist in the sales data. In our example, we are only finding two length pattern, that is a pattern containing only 2 items. But generally, we can find patterns containing many items also. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 also items can be exist. Thank you very much for viewing our video. If you like our work, please press the like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. If you want to know more about the pattern mining using PAMI library, please check the link shown here.